Hailing frequencies open and welcome aboard Treks and Tangents. I'm your co-host Brian.
And I'm your co-host Jaci. I'm the Star Trek newbie who checks off on tangents.
And I'm your Star Trek expert who is here to get the tangents back on track. Each episode we watch and talk about a different Star Trek episode. And this week we watched
Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 6, Mud's Women.
And jumping right into the episode this week, we'll start by revisiting the Turbolift tease from last episode. That's where we gave Jaci the title of this week's episode. And without any other information, Jaci tried to guess the plot. And I happen to have it here in front of me. Jaci's guess last week was, and I quote, "I am going to say that Mud is a dude, and he has a harem of ladies, and they need help." Boom. Jaci, how accurate do you think you are?
A+ star.
But is it? Yes, but it's super obvious. The title is Mud's Women. It's obvious that Mud is a person.
I've been studying my psychic abilities.
I think this was just an incredibly easy title to guess.
Well, you didn't tell me how to spell mud, so it could have been like actual mud, like Mud Women.
Yeah, I actually don't remember if I did give you the title of, or the spelling of the character's name. But in any case, what did you think of this episode?
I'm going to ruin the word, but let's talk about misogyny all over.
So congratulations, you have honed in on pretty much how modern Star Trek fans view this episode. It is an episode that is not aged well in any sense of the definition.
Like the last 5 minutes is like, oh, we better like make a package here and make it age well, in your words.
Well, and I really want to like the episode. I
Yes.
can't, but there's so much in the beginning of the episode that is extremely intriguing, that has a lot of hallmarks of Star Trek. You have the mysterious ship, you have the last minute beam out, you have the character Harry Mudd, who, if you...
Fantastic.
Absolutely. If you take his character qualities and just look at him as a character and you remove him from some of the aspects of this episode, it's a fantastic character.
Yeah.
He returns multiple times in the original series.
Oh. In the same...
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
does he devote his life like he says he's going to?
No, he continues to be a criminal and a scumbag. But I think Harry Mudd is one of the iconic villains in Star Trek that unfortunately doesn't get explored as much as some of the other iconic villains, like Q later on in the series. But
Now, you do love that dude Q. Like,
yeah,
that's like the 8th time you've mentioned it.
Oh, Q is so iconic. You have him across the Next Generation. You have him in Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I think you have him in Deep Space Nine. You have him in Voyager. You have him in Picard. You have him in the post credits of Picard.
Wow.
So
when does he get his own spinoff?
that would be an interesting Star Trek series, The Adventures of Q. I would absolutely watch that.
Yeah.
But when you move past those initial parts of the episode, this does come down to an episode that is a plot revolved around drug addiction, as you said, misogyny, sexism, human trafficking and pimping, definitely.
The baddies are at it.
Yeah. So and if you take those themes out and you just look at some of the plot breakdowns, character motivations, and the final aha moment at the end of the episode that we'll get to, it falls apart and it just doesn't make sense. So I want to like the episode. It really could have been a better episode, but I think this becomes the victim of 1960s attitudes and quote unquote societal norms, and it just doesn't turn into a good episode. Certainly not for a rewatch in today's time.
Well, I mean, I find it weird how everybody succumbs to all of this, but Kirk, as the leader, magically can fight off whatever it is that is taking hold of our crew. And my man Spock, he just, turns off his emotions, so he doesn't care. But only two out of the thousands that live on there.
Yeah, hundreds on
Oh,
the Enterprise.
I don't know.
Definitely Spock, completely immune to the. They don't even. I'm just pausing because they don't even really explain what the quote unquote the drug that the women take to become beautiful. They not. God, I gotta bleep that. Um, I, how do I bleep in our recording studio? Anyway, I'll figure it out post edit. It never explains why when they take this drug, they suddenly have this ability to hypnotize members of the opposite sex. It's not just their looks. It is
They
something.
totally do explain it at the end.
Confidence.
There's the power within.
No,
Yes.
that's an absolute cop out.
No, but
Which is the problem I have with the ending.
I can see that. But they are taking this drug, which not only makes them feel more feminine, more so Harry himself said it. This drug gives women, everybody, more of what they are. Women, beauty, looks, whatever. Men, masculine, anger. He even said that, but like basically steroids, I guess. But our girl Eve here, ironically, Eve is also, main girl of the Bible, which is weird. But like, there I go off checking. Like she withholds and then takes the placebo and then magically returns to however she was when she was quote unquote hypnotizing. And then only the audience knows what's happening because of the fantastic music. Because they have a twang.
Yeah, but so you're saying that the drug did not give the women any special powers. It just made them beautiful, and the reaction that we see from the other male crew members of the Enterprise, Scotty, McCoy, Kirk to some level in his quarters with Eve, you're saying the only reason they do that is because they are just so physically attractive,
Well, obviously something has to change. I get that.
and they don't explain
But
it, and that's my point.
exactly. Because I mean, we see the bleep in our in the sick bay, but I mean, if they don't explain the physical change, like whatever it is that they're taking, then the audience only has to go on what Kirk says in a very nonchalant way about Eve and how she did it herself, and she's like, "I did."
Yeah, and again, that's my problem because when Eve transforms from plain Eve to hypnotic Eve, it is a super physical change in all of them, but Eve is now her hair changes, she has eyeshadow.
True, they don't have any little makeup packets with them.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll address it again when we get to the ending, but I have ideas on how this could have been written and redone at the ending to have it make more sense, but maybe I'm just shilling for a job as a writer on the next Star Trek series.
Well, I think also Tyra Banks was not born yet, but I'm pretty sure these gals nailed the smize for America's Next Top Model.
Which will be our next podcast where we watch and break down episodes of America's Next Top Model. Stay tuned on our Patreon. But anyway, I think we've gone off on enough of a tangent here. Let's get back on track. Jackie, why don't you walk us through the episode?
All right, so of course we start with our beautiful galaxy, and my man Kirk talks about his captain's log, and it is Stardate 1329.8. I still have no idea what these numbers mean, but sounds good. And so we learn that the Enterprise is in pursuit of an unidentified vessel.
And I'll point out that this is another example where they don't quite have it down what the uniform colors mean and what they are, because we see Uhura in command gold yellow and not in her usual red uniform. This again was one of the episodes that they pitched as a redo of the pilot. The network
Yikes.
decided not to go with it as the pilot, but it was one of the earlier episodes filmed. So even 6 episodes in, we're still working our way through these repitched pilot episodes. I think this is the second of 3 that we're going to see. There's one more, I think, coming up where some of the uniform colors and some of these are going to be a little bit different.
Okay, because I was wondering, because I was like, wait, she's actually wearing earrings, because I've never seen her wear earrings, like noticeable ones, and she was in a different color, but her uniform still stays the same, like all the ladies in the starship, super, super short, and at least their arms are covered, because I'm sure it's chilly. But anyways, so as they're chasing that unidentified vessel, Kirk is like asking Spock, is that a Earth vessel? So I'm assuming he's thinking it's another human. But
Yeah.
Spock doesn't know.
Yeah, we don't really get a whole lot of alien ships this early into Star Trek. It's definitely mentioned later on in the episode that some of the quote unquote crimes that are levied against Harry Mudd are that he was operating his ship without a transponder, that he wasn't responding to the hails of the Enterprise, definitely flying under the radar. So they don't really know if it's an Earth ship. They don't really know if it's human. They're just making a broad assumption because at this point in Star Trek, we don't have alien vessels. We have human and Earth ships.
Oh, that makes sense because Sulu and the other command are talking about how if it really is from Earth, then their engines are going to overheat. They need to slow down. They need to respond to us. What's happening? And then Spock is all, well, we're going to an asteroid which has a Schiller rating of 3.5. Is that another made up thing?
Sure.
Cool.
I could not remember when I was watching it what that rating was. I'm sure later on someone decided to create the rest of that scale in reference to this one episode. I don't know what it is.
Well, we do find out that it is a J class vessel. That's cool. And so since they changed course and they're going towards that asteroid belt, Sulu's like, what do we do? And Farrell is instructed by Kirk to cover it with deflector screen.
The deflector shield.
Shield. See, I'm these terms. And so after they're shielded, both vessels, then Kirk also tells Uhura, see, I butchered her name again, one last time, you better respond to us or you're going to get blown up.
Yeah, it's important to point out that as they're discussing or as Kirk is making this order to extend the deflector shield from the Enterprise to envelop this unknown ship, that he's being warned by several crew members that in order to extend the deflector shield, the strain that it puts on the power system of the Enterprise is dangerously high, that they themselves are going to run the risk of overloading their power systems, overloading their engines, and they themselves are going to be in the same predicament because, again, important to mention, the ship has burned out its engines, and that's part of the reason why they felt imperative to extend the deflector shield, because this unidentified ship no longer can maneuver around the asteroids in the asteroid field.
Right. So they need to be safe. And then here we go again, having to save everybody. And like, what if it's a bad person? But that is why we have the credits that are fantastic. And then we're back on our bridge. And this is, so all of this is happening at the same time, though. We have the bridge and in the transport room. Sulu is talking about the lithium crystals that I guess run the Enterprise, how they're being overcharged, like you just said. But everything is draining, everything is being overheated. And then in the transport room, it's like calm. And Scotty, McCoy, thank you, McCoy. And then Spock like pops down there periodically, like magic, are calm and just waiting for whomever to pop over from the beam. And we are introduced to this Harry Mudd dude who has introduced himself as Leo Walsh.
Captain Leo Walsh.
Yes.
A man of fake chest hair, many fashions, and even more accents.
But He totally reminds me of a Renaissance person.
He's definitely a cross between a Renaissance fair cosplayer, a swashbuckler, a pirate. Definitely has swagger and ego to match. Again, he's just such a fantastic character that's saddled into a very terrible introductory episode.
Does he always have that weird bag thing hanging off his hip that like changes colors every now and then? It could just be costuming, but it looked really bad at
I
times.
I don't remember exactly what his costume is when we see him next. And I'm just thinking, because this is one of the repitched pilots and it's filmed in such a weird order, I don't know if those costumes would have been preserved, because this would have been recorded so far in advance before the television series aired, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, it's just an accessory. So, that's where all the magical makeup palettes live.
Yes.
So after we meet Harry, then her realizes there are more people, 3 more beings, because they still don't know exactly what has come over. Scotty starts to beam them over, and then their vessel is destroyed by an asteroid. And now everything is just taking a while. It's like in limbo because their vessel is gone. The crystals are being used up on the Enterprise for energy, so the transport beam is just taking its happy time.
Well, it's struggling to rematerialize the 3 remaining passengers on the cargo ship because the point of origin has been destroyed, but their pattern is in the transporter buffers, and so they have the pattern and they're able to rematerialize. None of that is explained in the episode because
It's so
transporter
weird.
technology, they don't go into that level of detail. This is all known from watching later Star Trek.
It's wild. I just imagined like making a dress, but on the Enterprise as humans. So finally, the 3 entities beam over, which are our 3 lovely ladies.
Yeah, and they're all posed like they're fashion models and they're posing for a photo shoot. Despite the fact that you have to imagine for the last several minutes before they beamed over, they're on a ship with 0 engines in the middle of an asteroid field. They likely have no idea what's going on. Their captain is beamed over to the Enterprise, and they're just sitting there going, well, hopefully they beam us too. Let's take our positions and pose.
Like they're on The Price is Right.
Yeah, or that America's Next Top Model show that we're going to dive into next week.
Well, we have 2 blonde ladies and 1 brunette lady
Okay, so name them.
on it. All right, so we have Magda, who is in lilac short dress that's asymmetrical. She has also a short hair, like a little asymmetrical bob. Then we have Eve, who is wearing that beautiful long pink gown, long hair that's like French twist to the side. And then we have Ruth, who is wearing a like Polynesian inspired green long dress, and she has beautiful dark hair and light eyes, and they're all wearing sandals, and each of their gowns, including Magda's, are so sequined. I love it. I'm sure everyone was like wearing sequins at the end of the day.
Well, that was
So
very
exciting.
That was very in depth. I think you got Eve right. What color is Magda's hair?
Blonde. It's blonde, brunette.
Okay, and Ruth is
Brunette. Wearing green.
wearing green. Okay, you did get
She's
them
from
right.
a sea ranch.
Okay, you did get them right.
Boom.
So we have these
I'm just
3
so excited. Sorry.
gold star. Fine. Back on track. We have these 3 women that have just beamed on board, posing like they're fashion models. McCoy and Scotty are completely hypnotized by the women. Very, very
Like
quickly.
drooling.
Like, yeah, like cartoon Looney Tunes.
They need
wolf.
like the hearts popping out of their eyes.
Yeah, their jaws hit the floor. The tongue rolls out.
And Spock is there just like, I don't get it.
Very, I think.
Annoyed.
Yeah. Again, Vulcans aren't supposed to express emotions, but you're definitely
He's
getting
really good at annoyed.
he's getting definitely a vibe or an aura of being annoyed. So anyway, they report to Kirk that they've managed to beam the three women on board because Kirk is wondering if Kirk is still on the bridge, so he wants to make sure that everyone has been beamed off of this cargo ship that has just been destroyed. They tell Kirk that yes, everyone's on board, and so Kirk orders Captain Leo. I'll refer to him as Leo just because we haven't in the episode given his real name yet. Orders the captain to Kirk's quarters to interrogate him because Kirk is upset with how he was running the ship. He was running away from the Enterprise, wasn't communicating with them. So he orders him to his quarters.
And it's like Leo tries to explain to Spock what the deal is. And Spock's like, just talk to the captain. So Spock leads them to our turbo lift. Well, their turbo lift. And as they're walking down the hallway, we have the same reaction with all the male crew members. It's, of course, not as noticeable because it's what we're seeing a scene. But, I mean, come on, guys. Be professional here. Now we're in the turbo lift because we have to go see Kirk. And then Captain Leo's like, oh, you must be, what was his term? Vulcanite?
Captain Leo, in speaking to Spock, says and points out that it looks like Spock is part, quote, Vulcanin.
There we go.
Which was a very, very, very early term that characters would use to referring to someone being Vulcan, his alien species. It's not used very often. It's quickly phased out, but it does point out that Captain Leo recognizes that Spock, at least in part, has the ability to control his emotions and is not affected by the quote-unquote charms of the women.
And that makes sense because, I mean, the music is chiming and the girls are posing and we have no reaction from Spock. Finally, we're at, I don't know how many floors that we have, but Kirk's floor. And as they're leaving the turbo lift, Eve, we don't know her name yet, but the one in the pink dress just starts apologizing for Leo. And then Leo cuts her off and is like, get over here.
Yeah, Eve's exact words to Spock is as apologizing for Captain Leo's behavior and abruptness and words. Eve says to Spock, he is so used to buying and selling people. And then that's when Leo cuts her off.
I found that weird too.
Well, it's a way.
Well, our first hint of, because he calls them cargo.
Yeah, that would be the absolute first sign of problematic themes of this episode. This would be another sign where Eve is literally apologizing for Leo's rude, arrogant, egotistical mannerisms by saying he doesn't know how to interact with people because he's so used to just viewing people as cargo and commodities than human beings. He lacks social skills. Literally apologizing for him being a pimp and a human trafficker.
True. And again, no emotion. And then we arrive at Kirk's quarters and they all go on in.
And we get several shots of their faces, their bodies. It's also important to point out as they're walking down the hallway, originally from the transporter room to the turbolift to get to Kirk's quarters, we get a very provocative camera angle shot of what I will just describe as the three women's backsides.
Yes, it was and these ladies had to be like perfect in whatever the assumption of perfect lady body was at that time.
Right. But in Kirk's quarters, Kirk is absolutely, like all the other male crew members so far, hypnotized by the three women. Spock, less annoyed in this scene, he looks entirely smug and amused at Kirk's reaction.
Yes, and this is where Captain Leo does refer to them as cargo because Kirk is trying to swallow up this weird feeling he's having. Is like, oh, is this the rest of your crew? These lovely ladies? And Leo is like, yes, they're quite lovely, but they're my cargo. Like, ooh, creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, as the kids call it, cringe.
Yes, we are going to appeal to the children and the kids and the hip teenagers listening to this podcast.
And as we go into our new captain's log, the scene is just Leo in the background looking so happy with himself, and Kirk gobsmacked with whatever hypnotism they have. And our new captain's log is Stardate 1329.1. We've taken aboard from an unregistered transport vessel its captain and 3 unusual females. They have an unusual magnetic effect on male crew members as well as myself, without an unknown explanation. So then I'm presuming that Kirk has a study or an office, because we're not in like his bedroom anymore because he has a desk.
It still would be his quarters, but I presume as the captain, well, I'll put it to you this way. As the captain, he would be afforded more luxurious and bigger quarters than a standard crew member, A.
Like a suite.
B, we're going to be reusing a lot of sets. So it's going to be, as an example, many of the crew quarters are the same. They just redress it with different furniture and different camera angles. So we're still in his quarters, but he definitely has a workstation or a little work desk in his quarters.
That makes sense. So now also another example of how rude our Leo is as they're sitting down to chat about what's happened. Leo takes off this giant hat of his and just throws it on the desk where Kirk has already sat down and is going to start writing. It's
yes.
Annoying.
Yeah. Examples of his egotistical personality. Again, one of the better moments of showcasing who this character is. Again, it's too bad that he has to be part of this terrible episode.
I also really like William Shatner's acting in this episode. I know that's weird, but his ability, like the gentleman who plays Spock, his ability to stay straight faced the entire time. I know they probably have many takes, but the acting, I like seeing the abilities of just the difference.
Yeah.
So after he's thrown his hat and they have this disrespectful look from Kirk, Leo Walsh is pleading his case about how could he know that this giant ship was a starship and how it was going to be safe, and he has to take care of these ladies and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, he's backpedaling. He's trying to get out of being in trouble.
Yeah, because Kirk is like, no, dude, all of these offenses that you have done, so I'm going to be pressing charges on you, basically, and we're going to have a hearing. And Mr. Spock can provide whatever legal information you need for your defense. That's on you. And then he tells security, Kirk has security take Leo to his own quarters. He has to stay there, but we don't really know where the gals are going to stay, but we find them in the conference room.
Yeah, it's important to note that Kirk's orders to security are to confine Captain Leo in his quarters, and there's no mention of confining the women to the quarters. Kind of weird, but I guess maybe explainable that if they have this hypnotic effect on Kirk, it's a justifiable oversight on Kirk's part not to confine the women to the quarters either. But
like, it's completely out of his mind. Like,
yeah,
they're just pretty ladies. They're harmless.
Yeah, but imagine if the women were confined to their quarters or Mud's quarters at the same time, how that would affect the plot. They wouldn't have the opportunity to steal the communicator to radio down to Rigel 12 later in the episode and set up the whole trade and go behind Kirk's back and put Kirk in a corner about how to obtain the crystals that they need. Just a random thought.
Because they're spies. But anyways, we're back at the bridge now, and Mr. Spock is acting as captain. So is he like second in command? Is that why I find him always, when Kirk is not out there, Spock is there?
Yes.
Like they're interchangeable?
Even though Spock's role is a science officer in this chain of command on the Enterprise, Spock would be second in command to Kirk. It's also not uncommon for there to be different shifts on the bridge, and for whoever the highest ranking officer is on the shift on the bridge at the time would be in command, while Kirk, as an example, is on an away mission to a planet or even just off duty and sleeping in his quarters. So,
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Like when Scotty was in that a couple episodes ago. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So Sulu and Farrell are talking about this weird magnetism that these ladies have over them, and they don't understand it, but they really enjoy it. And Scotty is telling Spock about their energy levels, like what's left of what happened before when they beamed everybody over. Because we have of the 3 lithium crystals that they have,
6.
They have 6. Okay, thank you. So then now I'm more confused because they only talk about 2 being gone and a third having a hairline fracture, and then we never hear about the other 3 because they're.
I think there are 6. I seem to remember.
Well, Kirk says he will buy 6 when they go to the planet.
Yeah, and they don't have any backups.
See, it's so weird because then we learn about batteries and all this beaming broke a bypass, all these words that I don't really understand. So they only have like 2 days left or they're going to be bad.
So it perhaps could be best explained like a car where the lithium crystals are the alternator that, because they're described as lithium circuits, but they have to power and generate power in order to create the energy and the electricity or whatever the hell this thing runs on to power the ship. The batteries are a backup. So the batteries are constantly being charged, but then when the lithium crystal power source doesn't work, when the alternator blows up, you fall onto battery backup, but the batteries don't get to recharge themselves. They just run until they're out of power. For those who are listening, to date this episode, my alternator died on my car literally yesterday as I was driving to work, and I got to watch this theory in practice as my battery slowly drained, and I watched all the systems in my car, from my airbags to my brakes to my power steering, all die as I was trying to pull over. It was fun.
I'm glad that you're safe, but I'm even more happy that I was not with you because I would have freaked out.
Yeah. So I tried looking up just now how many lithium crystals, and I'm not doing a deep dive, but here's where it doesn't make sense. You are right. Kirk decides later in the episode he wants to get 6 lithium crystals from the planet, which, let's just pretend that the Enterprise runs on 6 lithium crystals.
Okay.
The Enterprise has no backup crystals in storage to use in case, because if they did, if the Enterprise only ran on 3 and they had 3 in reserve, why are the 3 in reserve damaged? And why can't they just be swapped out and they continue on their way? So it has to be that they run on 6 crystals, and those 6 crystals were damaged in this previous incident where they were saving Captain Leo's ship.
Well, I mean, you did say that this was like a pilot redo, so maybe we just don't have the back story yet, and they're flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, or maybe at this point in Star Trek, there is no safe way to store a lithium crystal on a starship without it being just plugged into the actual system.
Well, I mean, they kill planes now, so, you know.
Yeah, but anyway, back on track.
So Spock then calls Kirk to the bridge because he needs to know what's happening. So Kirk heads on up to the bridge, but we have our little sidebar with Leo in his quarters.
I don't think it's Leo's quarters. I think for some reason that we don't get an explanation for, I think that Leo gets to leave his quarters and he gets to go to the conference room to talk to the 3 women under security. But again, no idea why this quarantine or this confinement has been breached. The only explanation I have is they're getting ready to start the trial, and security brings him to the conference room where the trial takes place. But again, it's not explained. And in any case, they're in the conference room, not quarters.
Thank you. And that makes a lot of sense. And again, he's such a jerk face. He's like, look at my escorts. I'm going to see my lovely ladies. Yes, he loves calling them his lovely ladies. Like a reiteration.
He's Charlie and they're angels. That's a terrible joke. I shouldn't have made it.
So the doors open and the gals have like forgotten what they're supposed to be doing, as we learn. Because for some reason we hear the name Harry, Harry, as they're all like excitedly happy to see him. And yes, I did watch with the closed captioning, and it says excited chatter. So, but I did hear Harry. So now we have to know who is Harry, but we'll get there. And the entire time, Leo is like, "You need to calm down, gals. We're gonna answer all their questions." So that does make more sense while they're there because the hearing, and he's talking about questions. I
Yeah.
had no idea what I was watching at that point.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And he's like, just you don't lie about anything. You just tell the truth because you're great. And he keeps asking for privacy, and for some reason the security guards are not hypnotized at this point, and they keep saying no, they're staying there.
Yeah, they don't seem to be very affected by the charms of the women. The security guards definitely seem to be in control of their senses and following orders.
But the gals could also be distracted because they don't know what's happening, and they need Leo to tell them what's happening so they're not sending out their charm. Who knows? But so, answer all their questions, but do not submit to a medical exam. But he's like having all of his words cut off as he's saying this because he doesn't want security to hear basically his plan because he's not who he really is. So and I'm still lost by what's happening, but I'm like, oh, cool, what's gonna happen? Because my girls, they're basically just dumb and pretty at this point, because that's all they've been at this point, except for that one lady, Eve, saying, "I'm sorry."
Hot take: hot women are dumb.
Well, in this episode, that's how they make it.
But we get a short little jump back to the bridge where Spock and Scotty explain to Kirk that they're down to their last lithium crystal circuit. It's cracked. They're desperately in need of more. Kirk decides that the Enterprise is going to divert to Rigel 12 because it has a mining outpost that mines lithium crystals, and they can buy and acquire more crystals and get the Enterprise out of its jam.
Now we're back at this conference room and we're starting our hearing. And it's pretty in depth because we have Leo, the three gals, McCoy, Scotty, Spock, Kirk, and then our security. And Spock is manning a computer that is like a lie detector as well as like the internet. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I'll point out it's not quite like the internet where it's accessing outside servers. It's just accessing
like intranet.
It's accessing its own internal records.
Oh, nifty. So it started, and the first question is basically, "What is your name?" And he's all like, "Captain Leo Walsh." And the computer goes, "Incorrect."
Yeah, in a very, very forced, robotic female voice.
I love it. And he repeats the question, and then he adds Captain Leo Walsh. He just makes it bigger. Again, another incorrect. So finally he has to say his name is actually Harry Mudd. Another incorrect. And then he has to give his actual legal name, which is Harcourt Fenton Mudd with 2 D's. And then it goes through, and he just starts answering the questions. And everything is incorrect. Then they bring up his past offenses, or he's asked about what he's done. And we see that he is a smuggler. He pays for things with fake currency. And then I thought it interesting that his punishment / treatment was psychiatric treatment, but the outcome was unknown.
Undetermined.
Yes, undetermined. But you should probably call the police department, because you probably should. No real reason, but please call. And then the computer like highlights each lady when Kirk says, show the witnesses, because he wants to get the background on them. And the computer doesn't know anything. But Leo, who is now Harry, does tell that's where I got all our fancy names and the background of our gals, their name, where their original planet is, because the actual thing that Harry is doing is providing wives to lonely men on faraway planets.
Yeah. So this is where the episode tries to justify the pimping and human trafficking.
They're lonely.
By Harry Mudd's trying to portray himself as a matchmaker, where he tries to paint himself as, I go to these far off planets that have women who will never get off of the family farm or out of their situation, and I transport them and pair them up on settlements, and this is the service that I provide. As, again, trying to portray himself as a matchmaker. It's also of importance to note that all the women at this point in this interview, to varying degrees and in different ways, but all of them are portraying themselves as willing participants in this. Eve goes the furthest, I think, by trying to explain that she came from a farming community with her two brothers
And
robots, and this service that Harry Mudd is providing is the only way that she would ever escape that situation, find a husband, become a housewife, start a family. It's still weird.
But in that time, that's what it kind of was like, the aspiration: get married, have babies, stay cooking. I don't know. Like, basically what she ends up doing at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But then Kirk wants to know who is Leo. And then we learn, or go on this tangent again, that Leo was originally the captain, but he sadly passed away. And, you know, this is like, this trip is in his honor and blah, 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 blah.
And Mudd didn't want the opportunity for these three women to go away. So even though Mudd doesn't have the license to operate the ship, even though he's a smuggler and a criminal, even though it is not on the up and up and above board, again, this is another...
These women need, you know, a life.
This is another desperate attempt by Harry Mudd to justify his borderline illegal and oftentimes illegal activities as legitimate.
And while he's telling this story, it's like their magnetism goes on again, because they're being talked about, these ladies. And we see McCoy and Scotty doing that drilling thing again. Kirk is at least fighting it off, but it's insane. They have to basically pull themselves together when they're needed elsewhere.
So at this point, Kirk draws the hearing to a close. His ruling is that Mudd should be turned over to the authorities at the next opportunity the Enterprise has. Everyone's standing up. Everyone's getting ready to disperse. But Eve gets desperate and hysterical and goes up to Kirk and wants to know, and in fact demands of Kirk, well, if Mudd's being turned over to the authorities, what's going to happen to us? Because we were on our way to meet our future husbands and to be relocated, and you're now traveling in the opposite direction.
And then we learn that the last circuit has died, and
well, we learn because the entire ship loses power for half a second and then boots back up. And then, yes, it is announced that the last lithium crystal circuit has died and the Enterprise is now running on battery power only.
And Kirk tells Spock to contact the planet, Rigel 12. I don't even know how they come up with these names. That they are on their way, ready or not, and they need 6 crystals right away. But Mudd doesn't really care. He's just super happy that they're going to a planet that has rich miners that have been alone for 3 years and are somewhat young. And I think he thinks he's taking over the Enterprise.
Yeah, I don't really understand. He does make the comment that as he's talking to the women, he goes, well, it's all fine, ladies. We're going to a mining colony with rich miners, and that's just as good. Which I understand that excitement because he is going to still make a profit on selling the women. If you want to try to dress it up, he's going to charge a matchmaking fee. It's not really what it is. He's selling them. But he then also gets super excited because he, yes, makes the comment that he is going to become the captain of the Enterprise and take over the Enterprise. How is he going to make so much money selling these 3 women to the miners that he's going to buy the Enterprise? Makes no sense.
And he has this entire idea throughout the rest of the episode. It's weird.
Yeah.
But he is again confined to his quarters under guard, and our ladies are free, wandering around. And again, they have this magical power, and we see them interacting with random men. We don't know yet what's happening. And finally, we're popping into the sick bay, and McCoy is futzing, who knows, his scanning machine. I don't know what he called it, but it was interesting. He actually had a name this time other than just what the vital signs are. And Ruthie just kind of like drapes herself on his door frame. Is like, all right, am I interrupting? And he's like, of course not. So come on in. And this is where I realized that she nailed that smize. Because, I mean, her eyes are gorgeous. But anyways. So as she's basically flirting with McCoy and draping herself on him, she walks by his scanner, just like, touching things, playing, and it bleeps, and it makes like a colon. And then he's like, can you go back to my scanner?
Yeah, he's fascinated, and it seems to break the hypnotic spell partially for half a second because the sickbay equipment is obviously reacting to Ruth in a way that McCoy has never seen before, but we don't really get a explanation to why this happens. Again, it defeats and diminishes and throws into question the ending of the episode where Kirk tries to give the explanation of it's just your inner beauty, it's your inner talents, it's your inner confidence. If that's the case, why do they have the power to throw off the sickbay equipment?
That's true, because he even asks if she's wearing a weird perfume or been around radioactive stuff.
Yeah.
But now we pop over to Kirk's quarters, and he's just wandering in, and we see Eve draped over his bed.
Yeah, can we talk about the fact that it seems like none of the doors to the quarters have locks?
They just go...
Everyone just seems to be able to barge into everyone's quarters when they're not invited and when they're not expected. We had Yeoman Janice in the last episode just waiting for Kirk. There's been several instances in the past, the salt vampire barging into McCoy's quarters without knocking. None of these doors have locks.
That's really weird because until we have like the security guards and they're physically blocking it like an elevator door.
Yeah. Is the Enterprise the neighborhood where everyone is safe and everyone leaves their doors unlocked at night? I have no idea. Seems like a terrible policy to have on a starship.
Especially with the captain where you have, secret stuff. Who knows? But Eve is waiting for him and they talk between like a lattice divider from his main room and his bedroom, which I've never noticed before either, but it was interesting. It added depth to the scene. And also like a physical barrier from whatever this magnet attraction they have. At least what I took from that scene. And she also mentions how she just had to escape from the hallway because she was just walking and everybody just kept staring at her. And this was the only place that she felt safe and to, have a respite. And poor Kirk, he's like, yeah, I need to have a talk with them.
Yeah, she's clearly putting on an act to seduce him.
So as he's leaving, she like runs to him and again, trying to seduce him. She's touching him, talking, moving closer to him. And they're almost to a kiss. And he's like, no. He's trying to back off. But then finally Eve's like, whatever. I can't do this. And runs away.
Yeah, so
And he's like, what?
instead of Kirk resisting Eve, Eve gets right to the threshold of sealing the deal and seducing Kirk fully to achieve whatever subterfuge and lies that she wants to get away with. But then she backs out and she utters the very strange phrase out loud, not necessarily to Kirk, but just out loud, that she doesn't care what Mud says. She can't go through with it and hates the whole thing. And then she runs out. Again, just showing that Eve is not fully under Mud's influence like Ruth and Magda are.
In Mud's quarters, Ruth and Magna are reporting back to Mud that they're on the planet. There are 3 men in good health. They've been alone for 3 years, and they should just be happy to have these gals, one for each of them. And he's very pleased. Then when Eve comes into the cabin, she is not happy with herself, and then she starts to feel ill, and it's like, it's almost that time. What time? Because we flash away back onto the bridge. Kirk is angry that he has to ask Farrell 2 times to put in his orders.
Yeah, the Enterprise is drifting off course. It's not uncommon that the ship would need input from the navigator, or at least the navigator making course corrections. And so Kirk is upset because the Enterprise is drifting off course. Farrell is not paying attention because he's still distracted by the thought of the women.
Thank you, thank you. And then Scotty also tells them that with what they have left in energy, they can get to the planet and acquire the 6 crystals. McCoy is also on the bridge, and he and Kirk have like a conversation about the women, because I think McCoy is still thinking about what happened with his screen, and that's actually made him stop and think, are these women actually more beautiful than others? Like, he even uses the again the word pound for pound, like, again, like stock, you know, as a match. Is this woman and this woman, like, how different are they? Or are we just, and Kirk's like, are we just tired? But they don't really know. But I am glad that they actually have this conversation, which shows that they're not the dumb ones either, and they can be smart men.
Yeah, they're starting to have some recognition that something is going on, even though if they don't fully understand what that is. But we pop back to Mud's quarters. Ruth and Magda, probably Magda, gives over a communicator that they've somehow swiped from somewhere on the Enterprise as they were roaming around. And Mud uses that communicator to contact Rigel 12. Makes absolutely zero sense. Huge problem with the plot hole. There's no way that that communicator device, A, can reach Rigel 12, even though they're coming up on Rigel 12, doesn't have the range. B, there's absolutely no way that whoever is on the bridge monitoring communications, or her main job, wouldn't have detected that communication being sent out toward the planet. Absolutely makes zero sense. But whatever. They do arrive finally at Rigel 12. Kirk orders the reps to come up from the mining camp so that they can negotiate the purchase of these crystals.
We're back in Mud's quarters, and our ladies are not so lovely anymore. They are looking like their age, I guess. Whatever their magnetism they have is gone. And we learn that this beauty that they have is actually from a pill.
Yeah.
And but they're freaking out because Harry put them away for safekeeping because they're going to get searched, and he forgot where he hid them.
Yeah. So let's talk about this very quickly, just for a moment. Their actions of begging for the pills shows, at least in my mind, that these pills are addictive. Whether I can't tell you if they're chemically addicted to these pills, if they're just addicted to the properties that they get from these pills and becoming beautiful, and they're addicted to that sensation. I don't know. It's also important to note that one of the girls makes the comment that, or asks Harry if Harry hid the pills because they are not to be trusted with the pills. Again, showing that they have these addictive qualities, that Harry has to hide the pills from the women so that they don't just take the pills whenever they want. Also shows that Harry has control over these women because he is the one doling out these drugs. Also, interesting side thought that we don't need an answer to. When they revert to this quote unquote ugly state, is that their natural state? Or has this drug made them ugly that we see with other drugs and having a negative physical effect on someone who is using and addicted to drugs? I couldn't tell you if it's an interesting thought. Did these women start as actually attractive women and taking these drugs have had this negative effect on their health? Or are they just reverting back to their natural state? No idea. It's an interesting thought.
I mean, then that's when we go back to they're super unattractive in society's view, and Eve is still relatively pretty, just older.
Yeah. But Mud finds the pills in the mattress.
And the gals are so happy to have it. Ruth and Magda, they like gobble it down. And Eve, she's having like an internal struggle, but we don't see her take it, even though it's like sparkly and has like a TikTok filter on it, pre-TikTok.
Yeah, she refers to the pill as a cheat, and
yes,
Mud is very much like Mud is very much like a bad person where he's pushing Eve to take the drug.
Yes, she takes a literal black piece from him, and then in her hand it's red and glittery.
Yeah.
Interesting. But now we're back in that conference room, and Spock and Kirk are discussing how beautiful the broken crystals are, even though they're no longer useful. And I think that is like a little sub thing that we should think about these ladies.
Well, I think in this particular scene, if I remember correctly, the actual transition between the scenes is we're on the shot of
The beautiful
Eve holding the pill, and the camera fades out on her, but fades in on Spock holding the crystal, and it's the exact same angle, it's the exact same shot. So I don't know that there's a deeper meaning to it, but it's definitely a clever, pretty transition between scenes.
I'm definitely seeing why the Trekkie culture is so big as I see more of these episodes. It's just fantastic. But our miners have arrived, and they explain they have exactly what the Enterprise needs. And Kirk's like, I could pay. There's no need to. Like, I got money. And the miners are like, we're just gonna swap.
Yeah, the miners specifically at this point reveal to Kirk that they've already been in communication with Harry Mudd behind everyone's back. Mudd has already given his sales pitch that he has these women for sale to be wives, slaves, companions, and that in order for the Enterprise and Kirk to get these crystals, they will trade the crystals for the women, but also part of the exchange has to be the immunity and dropping of all charges against Harry Mudd.
And he also tells Kirk, if you don't agree to this, you might as well not even try to go onto the planet because you're not going to find a crystal anywhere.
Yeah, definitely playing hardball, definitely not in any way, shape, or form willing to compromise on this deal.
But Kirk is like, F that, we're going. So everyone goes down to the planet to make the deal. And boy, is it windy. But the miners don't really care because they're in their quarters having a party. Everyone is dancing, enjoying life.
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting in the order in which they all beamed down because from a viewer's point of view, we see Kirk, Spock, and Mudd beam down to Rigel 12, and they enter into this little house, stone hut, where the miners live and work, and the women are already there, The miners are already there. The party's already underway. It's just, I don't know. It stood out in my notes that this is a weird order to beam down in.
Well, at the party, Eve is looking out the window and sees how windy it is. She's coughing and she's, of course, not feeling well because of all this wind and sand. Childress, one of the miners, I guess, has claimed her as his, and he explains that it's like this all the time. It's going to be really windy. You can hear the sizzle in the in the sky. That's a magnetic storm. I thought it would have something to do with the women, but it never ties in. So that was interesting. But Eve, I guess she decided she doesn't want to. She's just coughing and she's sick and she doesn't feel well. And Childress is not into that. And he's like, let me go over here to Ruth.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how this scene is set up because Magda and Ruth are dancing and flirting and playing along with these other two miners. And the third miner, I'm going to call him Ben. That's his first name. Ben is very interested in Eve. My take on Eve's attitude is she's leaning up against this shelf and looking out the window. She's ignoring the party. She has no interest in participating. Even when Ben is expressing interest and talking to her and trying to strike up a conversation with her, she is ignoring him and ignoring this ruse, which I guess I can explain away that Magda and Ruth are totally fine selling themselves to these two miners. Eve, I think, really actually wanted to and got into this arrangement with Harry Mudd to find a husband and become a homemaker. And she's seen that this is not going to happen, or she at least has the impression that this is not going to happen on this mining colony with these three miners, that they are not interested in making homes with these women. They just want to use them as
pillows.
I was going to say companions, but that works too. But anyway, it doesn't make sense because when Eve pays no attention to Ben goes and steals one of the women. It turns into a fight. And as they're fighting and Kirk and Spock are breaking up the fight, Eve runs out and she makes the declaration, why don't you have a raffle and the loser gets me?
My heart broke for her.
But again, why does she care that no one is interested in her if she's already dismissed this arrangement because she's not going to become a homemaker? It made no sense.
Well, I think even when we're in a different situation that we didn't anticipate, it does kind of hurt your own ego when nobody pays attention to you.
I guess. I don't know.
Or your expectations have not been met, I suppose. I mean, but I wouldn't want to be on a sandy, windy planet with a gropey dude.
Yeah.
But so she runs away.
Yeah, she runs out into the storm.
And Kirk runs after her.
And Mudd runs after her.
Yes. And then Childress was like, I guess I should follow. I think, though, they had like bird feathers in the wind.
From the sand effects?
Yes. It looks funny.
Okay. So they're looking for Eve. They can't find her. We get several minutes, probably not even minutes. It's probably less than a minute, but we get several shots of Eve in the sandstorm, Kirk in the sandstorm. They can't find her. The Enterprise crew returns to the Enterprise to use the ship scanners to more effectively locate Eve and I guess Ben at this point because he's out wandering the storm. But as they're searching, they can't find her initially because the storm is interfering with the scanners. We get a cut to Ben finding Eve and carrying her to his stone hut, his home, not the original stone hut. And he lays her down and she's asleep. He's exhausted. He falls asleep. They don't bother to call the Enterprise to say, hey, we're safe. Don't worry about it. They're still looking. And the reason why the Enterprise finds them is because they find a heat source at Ben's house and they beam down to the house. And we find that the heat source is, in fact, Eve cooking breakfast for Ben.
And she looks beautiful, but she has a new outfit on, it's like a robe. And Ben acts like a child.
It's important to point out that Eve is in her form, her most beautiful form, her hypnotic form.
Yes, yes, yes. And Ben, though, is upset that she actually did what a housewife would do. She cleaned up. She makes a point of saying, I ate your food, so I repaid it in chores. And he's like a toddler and throws a temper tantrum, like, I want it this way. And he talks about how he cooks better than her, or he does everything better. And she has to stroke his ego and go, well, I'm just trying to help. But then she gets frustrated with it and she throws it back at him when he comments on how his food is better. She has to scrub the pot clean or whatever. And then she comments, well, just put it outside in the sand and let it clean it for you. There's no need to have this argument. And the next thing we see is he's like, what a good idea.
Yeah.
And hanging the pots out.
Yeah, he's outside hanging up these pots so that the sandstorms can scrub his dishes clean. But he comes back inside to Eve playing, she calls it double jack, which is a form of solitaire. But she is now in her original form. Her not medicated on the pills appearance.
She calls it, she's slumped.
Yeah. And Ben has an interesting reaction where he does get annoyed that she now looks homely. He does not refer to her as ugly, but he is definitely commenting on it as if she has let herself go, that she's no longer appearing to be beautiful, that appearance was all a ruse and a lie. But it's only after he has a brief conversation about the cards and what card to play, and it's the wrong game. It's not his first reaction to her appearance.
I don't think he realizes that she changed in her looks because he's busy pointing out everything she's not doing.
Yeah.
But then Kirk and Harry arrive.
And the whole episode goes off the rails, jumps the shark. Absolutely makes no sense.
Because, of course, Ben wants to know if the other two ladies are changing their looks, if they're going homely. And he's finally told that it's called a Venus drug. And that's why they are beautiful. And then if they don't take it, they're quote unquote homely. But Eve, like, as like a way of like pointing out that it's a drug, she grabs 3 of them from the pill bottle that they're holding out to.
No, she only grabs 1. It just the way that they put it together, the prop department put it together. It is 1 pill, but it looks like it's 3 gummy candies put together.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. 'Cause I was like, no, don't OD.
Yeah.
But she takes the pill, and then it's like a moment, and Harry is explaining what we talked about at the beginning, how it's more of what you already are or desire. Ladies, feminine, beauty, etc. Men, muscles, aggressiveness, etc., etc. And Eve turns around and she's gorgeous again, but extra gorgeous, it seems. And so she's like, is this what you wanted, Ben? As she sits on his lap, and like, just someone to be selfish and beautiful and just do nothing. And he's caught off guard.
Yeah, definitely throws him for a loop.
And then he's like, but wait, they have to take, because this is again where it you mentioned earlier, they're like, it's from within. Like, she did it all herself.
Yeah,
says.
Captain Kirk reveals that the pill that she took was in fact a placebo, a fake. It was not Harry's drugs. Harry confirms it by saying, yes, my supply of this drug was confiscated. This is a placebo. This was Kirk's idea. This was Kirk's ruse. So they're giving this terrible explanation that, no, you completely transformed your physical appearance just by your own inner willpower and confidence. Again, what?
Yeah, I can see your point. But it is like a Disney movie now, because now they both choose to stay there. Happily ever after. Harry's like, I'll just stay here too with them, I'll just hang out. And Kirk's like, no, you are going to jail, dude. But I'll be a character witness for you.
Yeah.
And they laugh about locking him up, throwing away the keys.
So they return to the Enterprise. Also, Ben says that he will give Kirk the crystals. Again, did he give him the crystals? Did Kirk buy the crystals in the end?
Who knows?
Are they in fact trading the crystals for the women? Who knows?
We never really see a unbroken crystal. We're back on the bridge, and we have Kirk and McCoy joking about how, Kirk could participate in patent medicine. And he's like, no, that's your place. And Spock interrupts them and is like, I'm just glad all this is over. And McCoy, I just adore him. Like, knife to the heart. And then he makes the joke how Spock has different anatomy. And he's like, oh, well, your heart's over here.
Yes. And the episode just kind of...
They just go away.
It just fizzles out and they just start resuming their course. And roll credits. So, Jackie, what did you think about Season 1, Episode 6, Mudd's Women?
I mean, our plot, I didn't really like. But as I was saying, it's beautiful. I love the music. I could listen to the soundtrack all day long. But I could just be a weird, emotional, romantic person.
Yeah, I don't really, like I said in the beginning, I really want to like this episode because it has the introduction of Harry Mudd. I think Harry Mudd is an interesting character. I think he portrays a fantastic villain compared to some of the other problems and villains that the Enterprise will encounter. He's a great character, but when you overlay that with all of the other problems of the episode, not just the plot points, not just the throwaway ending episode, we didn't know how else to tie up loose ends, the misogyny, the sexism, the pimping and human trafficking, the drug addiction and controlling these women with those drugs. It's just not a good episode, in my opinion, in the end. The only way that this episode could have been saved is rewriting it so that the women came from a planet that had this drug and they were already taking it. And this is what the women already did, independent of Harry Mudd. Harry Mudd just sees it as an opportunity and provides transportation, and he's promised a cut for the transportation, which eliminates the power. He's no longer the drug pusher. He's no longer the pimp. And in the end, when Eve takes the placebo and she transforms, wouldn't it have been just a better explanation, instead of her transforming into her full hypnotic appearance, that we just get a different appearance, a in-between appearance, so that we could explain the fact that this is her inner self-confidence that's portraying her to be beautiful? It's still not a great moral to the story, but at least it would make sense. So,
well, that makes sense to me. Just throw some eyeliner on, girl.
Yeah, well, the magical appearing makeup. But I have a few fun Tribble tidbits or fun facts about this episode.
My favorite.
First aired October 13th, 1966. It is only one of two times that the crystals that power the starship is referred to as lithium crystals. At all other times, it is dilithium crystals. Gene Roddenberry, as I mentioned, wanted Mudd to make a return in The Next Generation. He makes some returns in the original series, but when The Next Generation was in its planning stages and pre-production, it was Roddenberry's intent to bring this character back, the actor back, but unfortunately the actor died at the age of 54, long before TNG even started to film its pilot and enter production. So, didn't have the opportunity. I also mentioned this is one of the 3 redone pilot pitches that they did to get the show back off the ground. The other 2 being, we've already covered, Where No Man Has Gone Before. And the third pilot that they pitched, that we have not seen yet, is the Omega Glory. We'll get to that. Despite this episode not aging well, this episode was very well received at the time, which just shows the difference in time periods. Harry Mudd's character's name was inspired by when Roddenberry drove past Harvey Mudd College, spelled the same way, Mudd, just outside of Los Angeles. He drove past it, saw the name, thought it was funny, and used it as the inspiration for Harry Mudd, the character name. And my final tidbit, we've already mentioned, Ruth and Magda have extensive makeup, rubber cement. They go through painstaking transformations for their quote unquote normal, ugly, non pill induced looks. Eve just doesn't have any superficial makeup, and her hair's a little bit disheveled whenever she's portrayed in that view. But those are your Tribble tidbits.
That's really interesting. And the more I think about it, I mean, Ruth is, I think that's why they said this is why, what planet they're from, because Ruth does kind of resemble a sea creature. Magda resembles whatever kind of planet she's from. And Eve is like a homely farm girl.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Well, to me.
And this is the part of our show where we rank the episode. We pretend that the episode is a member of our fictitious crew, and we assign a Starfleet rank to that episode. The rank is given not only on how much we enjoyed the episode, but as a way to determine how strong of an episode it is and how important of a crew member it is on our fictitious ship. A higher rank means we enjoyed the episode more when we watched it and consider the episode a more important member of our crew. A lower rank means we think the episode was less entertaining and the episode is more of a disposable crew member that wears a red shirt. For the ranking systems, we also limit the higher ranks. So an admiral or a 12, 15, 20 out of 10, the absolute cornerstone of the series, of the season, only gets to be 1. We then have captain, a perfect 10 out of 10, commander, 8 or 9 out of 10, lieutenant commander, lieutenant junior grade, all the way down to an ensign, which would be a 0 or 1 out of 10. Jackie, last week you ranked The Enemy Within as a lieutenant commander, which is the highest ranking you've given so far to any episode. How would you rank this episode on your fictitious ship, the USS Galactic Glitterbee?
I am torn. I want to give it so much higher than I am because it's just, I can't get over livestock as women as livestock. So I will just keep it in the middle and as a lieutenant commander, because again, I mean, the acting, for lack of a better term, choreography of everything, I think it balances out. Yeah, lieutenant commander with extra glitter.
So, lieutenant commander, that's still going to be the highest rank you've given an episode, 6 or 7 out of 10. This will be the third episode you've given that rank to. You can have a maximum of 10 lieutenant commanders on your crew.
Uh-oh.
Also, as a reminder to the listeners, at any time during the season, we can do field promotions, we can do field demotions if we deem it necessary, but...
Good, that's good to know.
I'm also extremely torn on what to rank this episode. It is an extremely problematic episode with the overall themes of human trafficking, using a drug to basically control other humans. It also just has some terrible plot points. The ending makes absolutely zero sense. It's almost like the writers tried to redeem all of the sexist and misogyny in the episode by making it about inner confidence, women empowerment, and it just falls so flat. And I would absolutely not hesitate to give this a rank of ensign if it was just based on that. But we do have Harry Mudd, a fantastic villain in the Star Trek universe. He's very entertaining overall.
I'm going to Google the actor.
Yeah. And I just really hate the fact that we're introduced to this character in this episode, which forces him to have these traits of being a pimp, a human trafficker, someone who controls women with drugs, and someone who just views women as cargo. So on my starship, the USS Cosmic Shark, as much as I would love to give this episode a higher rank and give it a better chance, it can't be an ensign. It can't be the bottom of the barrel only because of Harry Mudd this is going to be a lieutenant junior grade, second to the bottom, 2 or 3 out of 10 for the ranking. I've also ranked Charlie X at the same level. So those are our rankings. Compared to IMDb at the time of recording, I think this rating is absolutely influenced by the fact that this episode did not age well. These are modern rankings, of course, but it is a 6.7 out of 10.
I win.
As a reminder, we'll post an updated graphic showing our rankings to our Patreon a day after we publish this episode. So this episode will come out on a Tuesday, and this will be posted to our Patreon on Wednesday. Find us at patreon.com/Treks and Tangents. We'll be back next week to trek through another episode, but first we have to give our turbolift tease or elevator pitch to next week's episode. This is where I give Jackie the title of the next episode, and Jackie, with no other information and having not watched the episode before, she will give her best attempt to guess the plot of that episode.
Let me warm up.
That sound can, for those who are listening, that is Jackie rubbing her hands together anxiously. That is not picked up on the microphone. But Jackie, next week's episode is entitled,
oh no,
What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Everything nice. But I'm sorry, what was the title again?
Please remember, we're trying not to get canceled. What are little girls made of?
Why would they name it this? Especially after this episode before. Yikes. I'm just going to go on a limb and say sugar plum and cinnamon because I don't want to get us canceled.
Well, let's tune in next week and find out if we've guessed right, even though we've managed not to.
It's not right.
No, it's not. It's not bad. I'll say that. For those who are going to tune in next week, it's a very out of context, unrelated title. It's hard to guess.
Well, then why do I have to do that then?
Because that's the whole premise of the show.
Can I have a hint?
Can you have a hint? God, I have to transcribe this. Okay, I will give you the... how do I give this a hint? I will give you this hint. It is centered around a relationship with Nurse Chapel.
I don't even know who Nurse Chapel is.
She was the nurse in the sick bay for the naked time that had the terrible wig that professed her love to Spock.
Oh, I don't know. Well, obviously, we're going to learn more about Nurse Chapel. I don't know.
After all those hints, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it at that. If you want more show information, you can find us and directly support our podcast. Stop laughing. You're ruining the benchmark. On Patreon at patreon.com/Treks and Tangents. You can also follow us on X at Treks_Tangents. We're also on Instagram and Blue Sky at Treks and Tangents. Jackie, this has run so long. Where can people find you and what are you up to?
I am mainly on Instagram as Jaboom, and I also have started up my beadwork and jewelry and whatnot at Glitter Pity. That's IE at the end. And I love Labubu's, so you could see all of my little necklaces I've been making for them, as well as dogs. And I'm going to be figuring out how to do TikTok.
All right. You can watch me stream a variety of video games over at twitch.tv/Pirate Pound Town. On YouTube, I post video games and other random content on our main channel at Pirate Pound Town. Coin collecting and other hobby content also on YouTube at Pirate Treasure Hunting. I post socially on Blue Sky at Pirate Pound Town, and I can be found on Instagram under Pineapple Cannibal because Instagram has banned Pirate Pound Town for unjust reasons, but I'm still proud of it. Links to all social media mentioned can be found in the episode description. Thank you for everyone for tuning in to this episode. We hope you had fun like we did, and we will see you all next week.
See you later. Time.
End transmission.